Hello, YouTubers. Happy New Year. I know this is actually February, but this is actually my first taping of 2021. So welcome to my channel if you've never been here before. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you guys have been having a fabulous New Year so far. So today, because it is considered Black History Month, I actually think it's Black History all the time. It should be. But this is considered Black History Month in this country. So I am going to do a reading. And so this reading is where I did an assignment when I was working on my master's some years back. And I had to do an historical event. And I had to put myself in that event as if I was there. So what I'm going to do is a reading today about Martin Luther King's death. And I did a bunch of research. I checked all the different accounts of what happened on that day that we lost Martin Luther King Jr. And so this is what this is, a fictitious account, as if I were there. And I wrote it using research, meaning that everything that happened as far as his death is actually the truth from all the different accounts. And so I'm going to begin reading. Excuse me for not looking in the camera while I am reading. So this is called An Eyewitness Account, The Assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I was waiting for the right time. It wasn't easy getting next to Martin Luther King Jr. without a bodyguard or one of his aides in the way. I was so sure this would be the night I would get to sneak in a conversation with the great civil rights leader. My room was right next to his room. Room 305 at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. It was April 4th, 1968, and I was laying across my bed when I heard King's distinguished voice. I sprang out of bed, opening my door, only to find a group of men talking about soul food. There were too many of them around King for me to get a chance to talk to him at that point. So I closed my door to my motel room, leaving a crack so I could see what was happening. From that point on, everything seemed to happen in slow motion. The men quickly dispersed, one going into King's room, some going down to the car that was waiting, and King himself standing on the balcony, talking to one of the men on the stairs. King dropped something out of his pocket, and he went to pick it up. This was my chance. He was finally alone. I rushed out of my room when I heard what sounded like a firecracker. I froze as I saw a gaping hole in the side of King's right cheek, which extended down to his neck. I was so close that blood splattered from King onto my face like tiny pellets. I must have lost time because it seemed like it took him an hour to fall. There was a dead silence in the air, and no one was moving except for King falling. In that moment, when he fell, I could have sworn he caught my eye as I stood paralyzed by fear. My mouth hung open as my eyes met King's eyes. God forgive me, but all I could see was that hole, that gruesome hole that had torn into his flesh with such a force that it knocked the flesh off his bones and severed part of his neck. His eyes were speaking to me, but I couldn't respond. His eyes were brave. Even in the midst of death, his eyes said, "Don't be afraid. I've been to the mountaintop and I don't mind." I could taste King's blood as my tears pushed the tiny pellets of blood into my mouth. At the same time, a man ran out of King's room, pushing me aside to get to King. He never said, "Excuse me," or "Are you all right?" I don't even think he noticed me. He looked at King's body and then knelt next to him, cradling his head and rubbing the left side of his face. "This is Ralph. This is Ralph, Martin. Don't be afraid," the man uttered. The man King was talking to on the stairs was now kneeling on the other side of King. Others had come. I could no longer see his eyes. Taking his pulse, one of the men said, "Ralph, it's all over." Still rocking King in his arms, the guy who ran out of the hotel room sobbed, "Don't say that. Don't you say that." The paramedics pushed their way through as I staggered back into my room, falling to the floor in agony. I had just watched a dream die. At that moment, I understood. I understood why his fight was my fight. Why King's fight was your fight. Why his fight was every city in America's fight. Why his fight was every nation in the world's fight. Yes, I understood why Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s fight was and is all of mankind's fight. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you've enjoyed my reading about Dr. Martin Luther King. This is my way of making a tribute to Martin Luther King, to Dr. Martin Luther King, and also all the other people that should be recognized for Black History Month. There are so many other Black people who did many great things, and I just want to honor them on this day. It is February, and it is a celebration of Black History Month. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, please don't hesitate to subscribe. I do a lot of devotions about God, which is mostly what I do. I also do some cooking and talk about God in the midst. What else do I do? Sometimes I just talk about things relevant in today's society. So take your time and listen. I have about 92 or so videos. Look through my channel. I'm sure there's something that you can watch, something that you will like. And I hope you have an amazing New Year. Thanks again for watching. This is Dr. Brenda Joyce Sanders on YouTube. Bye for now.